If you're feeding your reptile store-bought greens, there's a very real chance they're not getting what they actually need. And the scary part, even the reptiles that look healthy can slowly develop issues like poor energy, poor shedding, or even metabolic bone disease. But today, I'm going to show you how something very simple can completely change that. And make sure you stay with me, because later in this video, I'm going to show you one simple trick that can get even the pickiest eaters to finally eat their greens. Hi, I'm Connor Hebel, founder of Reptile Microgreens, where our mission is simple: help reptile owners grow the healthiest, freshest food possible right at home, so their pets don't just survive, they thrive. So let's start with the truth that most reptile owners never hear. Not all greens are created equal. That bag of greens from the grocery store might look fresh, but by the time that it gets to your reptile, it's often lost a significant amount of its nutritional value. And here's why that matters. Reptiles don't eat large quantities like we do. Every single bite they take needs to be as nutrient dense as possible. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Studies have shown that microgreens can contain up to 40 times more nutrients than their mature counterparts. So instead of feeding a big bowl of low-density greens, you can feed a small amount of highly concentrated living nutrition. Now, imagine this. Instead of constantly buying greens, worrying about pesticide, or whether your reptile will even eat them, you could grow fresh, clean, highly nutritious food right at home in as little as 7 days. And guess what? It gets even better than that. Growing microgreens yourself is incredibly affordable compared to spending $5 to $6 every time you buy greens at the store. That's not just healthier, that's smarter. And that's why there's a massive movement right now with reptile owners switching to growing their own food. In fact, I've had customers who've come to me because their vets have said, you cannot keep your reptile on store-bought vegetables. It's literally harming their health. Quick question for you. What reptile do you have? And what's the biggest challenge in getting them to eat their greens? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear. All right, and that secret tip is coming up shortly, so be sure to stay tuned. Now let's talk about what actually happens when you first introduce microgreens to a reptile's diet. First, better nutrition absorption. Microgreens don't just contain the nutrients, they're easier for your reptile to absorb and use. Second, calcium support. And this is huge. One of the biggest issues in reptile health is metabolic bone disease, which is often caused by calcium deficiencies or poor diet balance. Certain microgreens like sunflower and endive are naturally high in calcium, making them an incredible addition to your feeding routine. Third, gut health. And this is something that most people overlook. Reptiles have a gut microbiome, just like we do. And research shows that a more diverse diet leads to a healthier digestive system. So if you're feeding the same greens every day, you could actually be limiting your reptile's long-term health. All right, so let's talk about something that almost every reptile struggles with. Picky eaters. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You put the greens in the bowl and they look at you like, yeah, I'm not gonna eat that. Here's the thing. It's not always the type of green. It's the experience. Microgreens are different. They're fresh, they smell stronger, and they have a softer texture. As well, you can get a variety of microgreens that is not just one thing. So if you're feeding your reptile kale, or collards, which, as we mentioned, it's very important to vary that diet, growing your microgreens, you're already having a blend of microgreens in there. And for many reptiles, that's enough to trigger curiosity and eventually eating. Now remember at the beginning, I told you there's a simple trick to get picky reptiles to eat it. So if this is already helping you rethink your reptile's diet, go ahead and hit that like button so I know to keep making content like this for you. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss any of our reptile microgreen videos. In fact, a lot of times when you just hit subscribe, it won't give you the notifications that we have a new video out. So be sure to hit that notification bell. So here's the trick. It's not what you feed, rather when you feed. Most people drop food at random times throughout the day, but reptiles are creatures of rhythm. Try feeding right after their lights have been on for a bit, when they've started to warm up and they have a little bit more energy. You'll notice a huge difference. Same food, completely different response. I noticed that for Dart, for example, she'll wake up at about 9 o'clock, start rustling around and being ready for food. And I usually wake up a little later, so I usually have to get up a little earlier, give her food, and then I'll go back to bed because that's when she eats and that's what works for her. So figure out what works best for your reptile, and a lot of times you'll notice that that might help them eat their greens. As we all know, you have a little bit of pickiness, but if you just stick with it, you try a little different things and you stay persistent, eventually you might get the chance that they won't be as picky. All right, so now here's where things get really exciting. Once your reptile starts loving microgreens, you're going to run into a new question. How do I grow the right mix consistently without wasting time or seeds? If you want more videos showing you exactly how to grow, feed, and optimize your reptile's health, and if you want my exact feeding sheet, plus a full reptile microgreen masterclass, just text the word reptile to 26786 and I'll send it right to you. That's reptile to 26786. And in this next video, I'm going to walk you through step-by-step how to grow the perfect reptile microgreens right at home, so you always have a fresh, consistent supply. So click on the screen right now and I'll show you exactly how to do it.